Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Coming up, details of a new cancer treatment that was invented here in Maryland. But first tonight, the three-day government shutdown appears to be ending. It has left raw nerves and political anger around the country. The government was mostly closed today. Even Baltimore's Fort McHenry had the gates locked. Joining us for some on-site analysis from the fort is Dr. Malia Cromer, director of the Sarah T. Hughes Field Politics Center at Goucher College. Malia, thank you for being with us. We should explain that the location happened to be convenient for you tonight, but also kind of illustrates why so many people were affected by this.
Absolutely. So I think a lesson learned from the 2013 shutdown is when you start to close the gates for national parks or the entrance rates for national parks, you get a lot of people really upset. And so there were people, I think, today that had come down to Fort McHenry and were denied entry. And these are the types of things that citizens, taxpayers get really frustrated about when they can't use their own government services. Probably
a good time to trot out the Churchill quote about democracy being the worst form of government, with the exception of all the other forms of government that have been tried. When you poll and you run the Goucher poll, when you ask people about their feelings about Congress as an institution, what sort of approval numbers do you see?
Well, so interestingly enough, at this time last year, Congress received its highest approval rating that the Goucher poll has ever rated it at 21%. But if you turn back the clocks of time, back into 2003, when we were in the field right after the last government shutdown, Congress's approval rating was a dismal 5%. And so we're going to check back with Marylanders in the next couple of weeks with our new Goucher poll for the spring, and we'll see if they're able to muster a little bit higher than that.
So why the government runs, why Congress runs on all these short-term continuing resolutions is kind of one issue. Another one is immigration, where Democratic members of the Senate were trying to exert some leverage, perhaps successfully, perhaps not, on that issue. How does immigration poll with the American people and here in Maryland?
Okay, so in general, when we think about immigration, you have to break it up into each of its component parts. DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that polls really well on a cross-section of Americans. And when we asked about it on the Goucher poll, it polls really well among Marylanders. So certainly there was a promise from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell that although they did not address DACA in the CR today, that they have promised that they will bring it to the floor for a Senate vote. It'll be interesting now to see if that public opinion, that strong public opinion for DACA, actually translates into public policy. And that'll be something we should be watching certainly over the next 2 weeks really closely.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about the politics of this government shutdown, you can give us a call. We'll have the number up on the screen. You can also tweet your questions. The Twitter address is @MPT News. So, Malia, if we can look at this by party, certainly on the conservative side, the Republican side, one of the things that distinguished Donald Trump as a candidate was the wall. So among Republicans, it's a much different issue.
Right, and so that's where we're going to see, I think, the movement over the next 2 weeks. So I think Republicans, certainly Freedom Caucus conservatives, are saying that we'll perhaps talk about DACA, but only in the context if the wall is part of that conversation. And certainly Donald Trump, that is a signature campaign promise of his. He'll be looking for the wall, funding for the wall in whatever form it takes to be part of that conversation. It's really unlikely that he'll let DACA go through without some sort of consideration for at least something in the terms of the conservative side of immigration politics.
And then the immigration politics on the progressive side. One of the things about DACA is that it's not a law. It was a policy of the Obama administration, which ended a year ago, and that sort of thing leaves you open to to change. I mean, everything's open to change at all times, but that may be a little bit more susceptible.
Sure, and I think progressives would argue that how DACA came into be is really a moot point right now. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands of individuals who are brought here as children, and you have to do so. There has to be policy. We have to address it somehow. Donald Trump made the decision to rescind that executive order, and now we're in a case where we have to move the ball forward on this issue. Whatever the outcome may be, it's time to get these individuals out of limbo and make a clear, there's either going to be a pathway to citizenship or sustained time in this country or deportation. I think it's time. I think the American public in general thinks it's time to get these people out of limbo.
Let's bring this back to Maryland for a minute. The Maryland governor's race, Governor Hogan, up for re-election this year. Very high poll numbers continuing in the most recent.
Sure.
Non-Goucher poll that we saw a couple of weeks ago. But he is a Republican in a very blue state, and Democrats running have tried 24 hours a day to link Hogan to Trump. Now, the governor came out with a very short, very strong statement on this. What did you think of that?
This is probably the strongest that Governor Hogan has come out against the Trump administration. But again, it wasn't just against the Trump administration. It was also against Congress. So he's certainly expressed his frustration. And everybody here in Maryland, not just the governor, the presiding officers, Comptroller Frida Francho, has come out against the government shutdown because the Maryland economy is so tied to the federal government. I think it's important to note it's not just the federal workers that a government shutdown really hurts and impacts. It's all the other businesses that rely on those individuals going out to lunch and those types of others, ancillary businesses that are supported by our large federal workforce, and they will not get to recoup any of that damage or any of that lost income. And so it's no wonder you see a bipartisan pushback against what happened with the shutdown.
Let's take a phone call. Fredericksburg, Virginia. This is Anita. Anita, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
You're welcome. I am very much against the government shutdown, just because of what the lady before me said. I'm disgusted with the behavior of both sides. I am a Democrat. I'm very much anti-Trump. I walked in the Woman's Walk, and my feelings have been the same the entire year. But at this point, America is paralyzed, and America is not the America that I think it is.
Anita, great phone call. Thank you very much. Malia, let me follow up on that if I can by asking whether, certainly going into this election season, Democrats highly motivated. Does this period, the last 3 days, a lot of mud flying around, maybe reduce anybody's enthusiasm, do you think?
So there has been some speculation that really those staunch progressives are very frustrated with the Democrats in the Senate for not kind of holding steady and pushing and forcing the hand of the Republicans, or at least continuing the shutdown until a vote on DACA was brought to be. And so you do see, I think, some pushback among that certain subsection. However, you have to, in the grander scheme of things, there has been a progressive victory, certainly on the Children's Health Insurance Program, now has been reauthorized for another 6 years. And so this is what negotiation looks like. And unfortunately, you have a part of the population who's probably very tired of being the negotiation point and really would like to see their status here in this country be decided on.
Seems like it's about time for another Goucher poll. What do you think?
It is.
What are you looking at?
It is. Yeah, thank you. Yes, it is about time for another Goucher poll. We'll be in the field in the next couple of weeks, and we're certainly going to be addressing these types of issues. I think something I'm really interested in, we see this disconnect between Governor Hogan's approval ratings hitting again at 70%, but yet having a reelect rate against Democrats at a little bit below 50. So something's driving that gap, and we're certainly in our next Goucher poll going to try to explore and figure out that what's behind it.
Do you think that this episode, the last few days, tells us anything about how the rest of this year is going to go?
So it's really interesting to think about it in terms of Maryland politics. So we think about the resistance and we think about the blue wave coming, but there really aren't a lot of parts of the state for the blue wave to go. So if you think about all the congressional districts, we have, seven seats are Democrats right now. One is a Republican, and Andy Harris in that very conservative Eastern Shore district. I'm not sure if Democrats will be able to muster enough to flip the first. And besides Larry Hogan in the governor's mansion, who certainly a lot of progressives would like to see him out of office, but at the same time, he has pushed back against the Trump administration. And right now, the Maryland economy is doing well, and a lot of voters will certainly give credit to the governor when the economy is going well. So it'll be interesting to see. I think a blue wave is certainly coming, but we'll have to see about the veracity of the wave here in Maryland.
Let's get one more phone call. Shepherdstown, West Virginia. This is Anita. Anita, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a basic question. You hear a lot about federal government shutdown. How far-reaching is it? Does it actually flow down to the state, county, municipality, city, et cetera? Or is it just the federal government?
Good question, Anita. Thank you very much. Malia, I'll let you take a shot at that.
It's just the federal government, and thankfully, it looks like it will be ending today. So it's also just what they call non-essential workers. So these are individuals that I think that our lives can function without them for at least for a short period of time. But I will say that, as much as we complain about government, it is essential that we have these functions up and running that we are paying and contributing tax dollars towards.
Malia Cromer joining us from one of her favorite places, Fort McHenry in Baltimore City. Malia, thanks very much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
And coming up, new treatments for early-stage breast cancer. We'll be right back.
Got an unused vehicle going nowhere? Donate it to the one place that can take you any place. Visit mpt.org/vehicles and support the programs you love on MPT.
The MPT app puts our programs right at your fingertips, so you can choose when to watch, what to watch, wherever you want to watch it. Download it now.
What happens in Japan and Asia matters to me. And with NHK World's newsroom in Tokyo, I get the news live from Japan right at the start of my day.
New ideas come out of Asia all the time. NHK Newsline reports on business, technology, and world events from Tokyo to Bangkok.
Once in the morning gives me a heads up on the competition.
Every hour on the hour, the news I want from Asia.
Watch NHK World now on Comcast Channel 268 and Verizon Channel 480.
Are you turning 70 and a half this year? If so, you generally have to start spending down your retirement account. Even the minimum distribution can place you in a sticky situation. Luckily, you can now use your IRA to make tax-free gifts. Gifts up to $100,000 will never count as income, but always make a difference. That's icing on the cake.
Make your gift for this year before December 31st. Visit mpt.org/support.
This is a box that showed you a world beyond your own. It was just a box, but the world has changed, and so have we. And now the box can be almost any size or shape. And you decide what you want to explore. Anytime, any place. Break out of the box with PBS.
Joining us in the studio for this week's health segment is Dr. Elizabeth Nichols, Assistant Professor of Radiation Oncology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine and Radiation Oncologist at the University of Maryland's Greenebaum Comprehensive Cancer Center. Doctor, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You help a lot of people who have breast cancer. Before we get to the new treatment, how's the current treatment work? What does it do?
Yeah, good question. So for early stage breast cancer patients, that's actually the majority of women diagnosed with breast cancer in our country at least. And so the general treatments for early stage breast cancer include typically a combination of surgery followed by radiation therapy for many women. In terms of surgery, there's usually two different options. One, which is a mastectomy, where we remove the entire breast, or the other is a lumpectomy, where we remove the tumor plus a little bit of tissue around it. And when we give a lumpectomy, we always follow that up with radiation treatments afterwards.
What percentage would you say of breast cancer patients wind up having some radiation?
So the majority of women in our country end up undergoing radiation therapy as part of their care. So when we take all women with all stages, it's roughly 60% of women in our country.
Okay, so you now have this brand new device called a gamma pod.
Yeah.
Talk about that and how it is different.
Yeah, so the Gamma Pod is a device that was developed at the University of Maryland Department of Radiation Oncology with our chairman, Dr. William Regine, as well as one of our medical physicists, Dr. Cedric Yu. And it's a device very specifically dedicated to breast cancer treatment. The way the Gamma Pod actually works is women are able to receive the radiation therapy in as few as 1 to 5 treatments, as opposed to the normal treatment, which is usually anywhere from 16 to up to 35 or so.
What speeds it up? So we're seeing a shot of the device, and now it looks like a woman being sort of suspended over a bunch of radiation emitters of some sort.
Sure. Yeah, so what makes this device different is we're able to give the radiation with a much higher precision. And when we do that, we can deliver a higher dose of radiation per treatment, but in a fewer number of treatments.
What does that mean for side effects from radiation?
Yes, that's a good question. So while we're still undergoing some clinical testing for patients, we do believe, based on some of the different analyses we've done in the computer for women, that this will result in a decrease in long-term side effects, because we'll be able to get a lower dose of radiation to other healthy organs like the lung, the heart, as well as the normal breast tissue.
What's the process like to get something? You weren't directly involved in getting it approved, but how? It's a question that somebody who's thinking about getting on that table might want to know. How thoroughly is it tested? How much do we know about its success?
Yeah, so that Gamma Pod has actually undergone very rigorous testing, not just by our department, but also through the FDA. So we recently completed the FDA clearance process, and that's what led to the FDA approval. We've done a lot of different testing, and we know with 100% certainty that the device is accurate within fractions of a millimeter.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about breast cancer treatment in general, you can give us a call. We'll have the number on the screen. You could also tweet your questions. Twitter address is @MPTNews. It's been a little while. We did a program on another new radiation device. It was a proton treatment center. How's that differ?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So proton therapy is a little bit of a different type of radiation. There's a whole unique device generated just to deliver proton therapy. And when it comes to breast cancer treatment, we generally look at proton therapy for women who have locally advanced breast cancers, which means women who have breast cancers usually in the lymph nodes, or in women who need radiation a second time around. The Gamma Pod is really going to be more for women with early stage cancers, and so that's kind of how the patients will differ.
Could this eventually change the standard treatment regimen for breast cancer?
So that's what we're very hopeful for. So we've actually done some clinical trials before the development of the Gamma Pod, where we actually gave the radiation before doing surgery. And as I explained earlier, typically the normal pattern is that women would have surgery first, followed by radiation. In that study, we actually found that in several women, we were actually able to get rid of all of their cancer with giving the radiation beforehand. And so what we're hopeful for with the Gamma Pod is that with the increased precision that we can give, which will also allow us to give an increased dose of radiation, that we might find a cohort of patients where we might be able to give them radiation alone, and actually they wouldn't need surgery. Now, certainly that's not a standard right now. We'll be doing some clinical trials to test that, but that's what we're actually very hopeful for.
So right now, this is one device in one center. How does it get rolled out?
Yeah, good question. So we actually, the Excision company, which is the co-developer of the Gamma Pod, we actually have 4 institutions that will have the Gamma Pod device within the next year. So we have the only device that's been clinically tested at the present time, but also UT Southwestern, Allegheny General in Pittsburgh, and then actually Ottawa Cancer Center in Canada.
Are there other cancers, other conditions where it might be helpful?
So it's a great question. So this type of radiation is helpful in other cancers. However, the gamma pod itself is very specific for breast cancer only. And that's why we actually think this device will be probably so successful, because it's really developed and made and designed around the breast cancer treatment.
Talk about screening recommendations. What's the state of the art in terms of what sort of screening women should have and when they should have it?
Yeah, so this is actually a very controversial topic, as I think many are aware of, and that actually came from the United States Preventative Task Force, actually coming out with some recommendations a couple years ago, which actually changed what we had always thought women should have. I'd say at this time, all of the cancer societies, so the American Cancer Society, the breast cancer societies, we all still recommend that women undergo screening beginning at the age of 40. And so that's still something that is recommended. However, just like the United States Preventative Task Force recommends, there really needs to be an individual conversation with the patient and their physician about the risks and benefits of cancer screening. I think another new development in cancer screening has also been the advent of 3D mammograms or tomography. So a lot of our patients will ask us questions about that as well. And so one of the areas where that technology we think is going to be very beneficial and has been shown to be beneficial is in women who have dense breast tissue. So that was also a controversy that came up a couple years ago about the density of women's breast tissue and the ability to accurately detect cancers in those women.
Let's take a phone call. Prince
Sure.
George's County. This is Harriet. Harriet, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to ask the doctor, and I think she just mentioned it. I had turned the TV down. The difference between the 3D mammogram and the regular mammogram, I heard her say it because of the density, the thickness of the breast. I'm going to hang up so I can actually hear what she had to say.
Harriet, before you go, why do you ask, if I can ask?
Well, because I've had mammograms before, and last year when I went, I was given some information for 3D, and I didn't know enough about it, and I didn't call Medicare because I'm 74, and I didn't call Medicare to find out if it was approved or not, so I denied it. So I would like to have more information because I have the problem with thick density of my breast. I've had that problem all my life. It's very thick.
Thank you for calling, but we'll get you an answer. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the things that's different with the 3D mammogram is instead of doing kind of two views, so your standard mammogram will kind of take the breast and compress it this way as well as this way. With the 3D mammogram, they can actually do an infinite number of sections, if you will, so they can get images kind of in a three-dimensional view of the breast. And so what that allows the computer softwares to do is actually do a better look at the dense, or just the regular dense tissue versus any potential nodules or calcifications and so forth. There is a slightly higher radiation exposure to women when we do the 3D mammogram. However, in the grand scheme, as physicians, we don't feel that that's something that's significant enough that women should not undergo that testing.
Let's go out to the Eastern Shore, Worcester County. This is Robert. Robert, thank you for the call. Go ahead. Robert, are you there?
Yes, I am.
What's your question, sir?
Yes, I wondered what if the insurance companies pay for this new treatment.
That's a good question. Thank you, sir.
Can I clarify, are you referencing the gamma pod treatment?
I think the gamma pod.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so it's a great question. So the gamma pod treatment, there will be a variety of ways that we can use it to treat breast cancer. So certainly we're very excited about giving it in the preoperative fashion or before surgery, but there will also be ways to give it afterwards. For sure, we know that it will be covered afterwards, as that will be considered kind of part of the standard type of radiation therapy, just a new device to deliver that. When we're looking at it in the preoperative fashion, again, as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing that in the context of clinical trials. And so typically, some insurances will cover that in the context of a clinical trial. Other insurers might cover it outright, but that is something that we're working very closely with the Excision Company, our National Radiation Society, as well as the local insurers to help provide coverage.
And it's interesting, the previous caller talking about the 3D mammogram had an insurance question that prevented her from going forward.
Right.
Do you know anything about how that's typically covered?
Yeah, I mean, so generally, I think when it comes to cancer therapy, whether it's the treatment or the 3D mammograms, we always ensure for our patients that we're going to make sure that they are provided coverage by their insurer before we deliver treatment. We would never want to give the treatment and then have the patient receive a bill afterwards.
Right. And in terms of the reason you want people to get mammograms and the reason that you're happy about the fact that so many of the cases you treat are early stage, how important is that?
So it's very important because early stage breast cancers are so very curable. In our country, the cure rates for early stage breast cancers are 90% or higher for the majority of women, whereas when women have a more locally advanced cancer with lymph node involvement sometimes or the skin's involved, the survival rates decrease somewhat significantly. And so, you know, this is a very curable cancer. It's something we can detect early, and so we always encourage that for women.
Let's squeeze in one more call.
Sure.
Anne Arundel County, this is Sophia. Thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, I am like, if I go first time like 58 years old, and they told me that I have to repeat because they see something in my right breast. I go repeat a mammogram, and later they said, no, nothing, it's mistake. And last year I went again, and they again say, we want to repeat mammogram again because we see something in the right hand, right breast, and I am so afraid. They put me in so much radiation. With what?
Sophia, we're short on time. I'll get you an answer on the air. Good luck, and thank you for calling. What would you advise?
Yeah, so especially for women who have dense breast tissue, as I described, when you kind of compress the breast only in two ways, sometimes the tissue can overlie, and so the radiologist might think there's something a little concerning when there truly isn't. That's why they do the additional testing. Again, in the grand scheme, as physicians, we don't feel that the radiation from those studies is so significant to not warrant those studies.
Dr. Nichols, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us for Direct Connection, and have a good night.
Your health segments are a co-production of Maryland Public Television and the University of Maryland Medical System.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.